Moving on to our next video, let's go ahead and learn about trig. This is the introduction to trig. Trig, I think of the word SOHCAHTOA, because now we're learning about the three main functions: sine, cosine, and tangent. SOHCAHTOA, the sine of an angle is equal to the opposite side over the hypotenuse. Cosine of an angle is equal to the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. And tangent of an angle is equal to the opposite side over adjacent. So we're going to be focusing on certain angles. Opposite side means across, adjacent means right next to that angle. So SOHCAHTOA, sine of opposite over hypotenuse, cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse, tangent, opposite over adjacent. So that's a trick to learn all these trig functions. You'll have the book in front of you when you do your homework, so just keep that in mind, but it's good to memorize that. Example 1, here it says, find the sine, the cosine, and the tangent of G. To use this, to find your trig, you need three things. You need your sides and you need your hypotenuse, especially when we're dealing with the sine and cosine, because they each require a hypotenuse. Here, we don't have a hypotenuse. We have to find it. It's a right triangle. We don't know what the measurements are, the degrees, so we can't use 30, 60, 90, 45, 45, 90, but we can use a squared plus b squared equals c squared. One of the sides, 3. The other side, 4. And we don't have c squared. We have 9 plus 16 equals c squared. That's 25 equals c squared. And what we're doing here, we're just trying to get what the hypotenuse is. In this case, the hypotenuse is 5. So again, just keep in mind you need to have all three if you're looking for all three of the functions. If you see later in an example, we're only going to be focusing on 1 or 2. Here we have the sine, the cosine, and tangent. Here says the sine of G, the cosine of G, and tangent of G. We're going to be focusing on this angle here. So sine is opposite over hypotenuse. So from the angle G, the opposite side would be 3. Adjacent means right next to, so the side that's sharing that angle is right here. This is adjacent. If I were you, I would label them so you know which one's which. And in 5, we always know hypotenuse is always right across from that 90-degree angle. So we have what each one is. Now we can go back and solve them out. Sine, opposite over hypotenuse. Opposite side is 3, hypotenuse is 5. Cosine, adjacent over hypotenuse. The adjacent side for G is 4. The hypotenuse is 5. Last one, tangent. Opposite over adjacent, TOA. So tangent is opposite of the G. So we're focusing on the same angle. We're finding it 3 different ways. Opposite side is 3. And the adjacent side is 4. And that's it. Example 2. This is where we include the calculator. If you look in your calculator, whether it's Texas Instrument or not, you have a whole row of sine, cosine, and tangent. So for the first one, the cosine of 72, 2 degrees. You don't have to put degrees, just 72. You're going to have 0.9, etc., etc. And in this case, I think I have in radians. So degree, make sure your calculator's in degrees. I was doing radius for a different class. So degree. And then put cosine of 72. And then you have 0.3, 0.9, etc., etc. On the book, it says to round to the nearest hundredths. For your homework, make sure you're looking at where you need to round. It will be wrong if you add a different number. Here, you're going to solve it out on your calculator. And I want you to try this out in your house. You'll have 0.31, 0.5, and 2.75. So try them out, see what you get. You're going to get different answers there. So this, example 2, very easy, plug in your calculator. Example 3, here it says to use a tangent ratio to find e to the nearest hundredths. So we're using the tangent. It's always sine, cosine, tangent of an angle. So that capital A means an angle. The only angle we have here that we're going to be focusing on is 72 degrees. And that's the main angle here. So now, looking at tangent. For tangent, I need 2 things. I need my opposite side and my adjacent side. So the opposite side of 72 is E. My adjacent side is 13 This is the hypotenuse. We don't need the hypotenuse. Unless we're looking for all three, we will, but in this case, we don't need the hypotenuse, so I'm going to cross it out here. Now, the tangent of 72 degrees, so we're focusing from this angle, is opposite, which is E, over the adjacent, which is 13. From this point, we're trying to solve for E. To solve for E, we have tangent 72 equals E over 13. 13 is being divided into E, so we need to get that E by itself. We gotta multiply. That cancels out. Now we have 13 tangent of 72 degrees is equal to E. That's something you can plug into your calculator. 13 times the tangent of 72 degrees, and you'll get about 40.01. So make sure you're going step by step. Go ahead and divide. Try it out at home with your calculator that you should have brought home. Last one, example 4, the sine. Find the sine or use the sine function to find what x is here. Now we have to find different ways to solve for this. We have 90 degrees, but we're not focusing on 90. We're focusing on the 32 degrees. It's the sine. Sine, you need two things, opposite side and hypotenuse. The opposite side of 32 is 8. The hypotenuse is x. That's only two things you need. You don't need to find the adjacent side because we're not looking for that. Now, we find the sine of 32. Sine of 32 is equal to the opposite side over the hypotenuse. Opposite side is 8, hypotenuse is x. Now we have to solve for x. This is where it's different from example 3. The x is in the denominator, our unknown. See if you can see that. There you go. The x is unknown. You can't just divide or multiply by 8 because it's in the denominator. So to do this, whenever you're dividing, you're always multiplying both sides by whatever is in the denominator. In this case, x is in the denominator. Now we have x times sine of 32 is equal to 8. We're solving for x. To get x by itself, you divide both sides by the sine of 32, and then you'll get what x is. It's about 15.10. There's another way. You can have the sine of 32 is equal to 8 over x. You can make this as a fraction, proportions, cross multiply. So you cross multiply the sine of 32 times x is equal to 8 to get x by itself. You divide both sides by the sine of 32, and then you'll get the same answer, 15.10. So both ways work out. If you have any questions, let me know. Always make sure you're looking at the drop-down box right here. Do your homework every day. Be diligent. I miss you guys. Have a good day.